Marvel Vs Capcom is one of the most popular series in gaming that got better with each new game. I'm pretty sure that a lot of us fans are anticipating the release of the 4th game, as it should be getting announced anytime soon now that we're in the 7th generation of consoles. Naturally, we should be getting some more new characters added to the roster. With this in mind, I decided to go ahead and list my top 10 characters that I'd love to see make it into Marvel vs Capcom 4. I must admit, coming up with 10 characters was insanely challenging, as there are so many characters from both universes that would be very cool to see in the game. So if you don't see any of your favorite characters, just remember, these are strictly my own personal choices. I'm going to admit that I've never read any of the Marvel comics. I just never got around to reading them, so the main exposure I've had to the franchises are the animated TV shows and movies. So please keep this in mind when I list my Marvel choices. I was originally going to separate the video into 2 parts where I'd have 10 characters from the respective franchises, but I decided to go with 5 instead. That means you'll see 5 Marvel characters, then 5 Capcom characters. I'll start with Marvel, then go to Capcom. Before I begin, here are 2 past characters from previous Marvel vs Capcom games who were cut from the 3rd game that I'd love to see return, even if as DLC. Starting with Marvel, Gambit. I was and still am a big Gambit fan. He's my #1 favorite X-Men character, and was the main character I played in the previous games. I was upset that he didn't return in Marvel vs Capcom 3, heck, not even as freaking DLC. That said, I'd love to see him return in Marvel vs Capcom 4 as DLC at the very least. For Capcom, Hayato. I've never played the Star Gladiator games, but I did enjoy playing Hayato quite a lot in Marvel vs Capcom 2. He has a cool design and had some pretty neat moves, and like Gambit, I really like to see him return in Marvel vs Capcom 4. And now, here are my top 10 characters I like to see in Marvel vs Capcom 4. Kicking off my list at number 5 is Angel from the X-Men series. Like I mentioned, I never did read the comics, but I did love the X-Men cartoons, and I enjoyed how they portrayed Angel. I think it'd be cool to have him in the game, as I feel he'd have some cool offensive attacks, and it'd be neat to have another flight-based character. Number 4 is a tie between the Scarlet Witch and her son, Wiccan. I always thought that the Scarlet Witch had a very cool design, and has one of the best powers in the X-Men universe. I even liked her representation in X-Men Evolution, though I'm a little bit biased on that one. Anyway, her power of probability, aka hexing, as well as her chaos magic, would make for some interesting gameplay. I'm willing to bet that she'd have some awesome special moves as well as hyper combos. On the other hand, I included her son Wiccan, as he's one of the more modern Avengers characters. From the start, I love his design, and even though he doesn't have the power of probability like his mom, he can use chaos magic, so I think he'd be a great secondary replacement character for Scarlet Witch if they want to go with someone more modern. At the end of the day, I would love to see either one of them make it in. Number 3, Mystique. Mystique. She has to be one of my favorite villains in the X-Men series. I'm very surprised that she hasn't been featured in a lot more games. I mean, she's one of the most iconic X-Men characters in existence. I think that it would be awesome to see her in Marvel vs Capcom 4. As far as her moveset can go, they can go with her moves from the X-Men Mutant Academy games, or X-Men Next Dimension. Heck, why not take some cues from the fan-made Mugen game, X-Men The Second Coming, created by Project X. The way they handled her moveset was very cool, and could transition well into a Marvel vs Capcom game. If there was one villain from X-Men that I'd love to see in the next Marvel vs Capcom, it would be her. Next up on my list is Havoc, the brother of the original X-Men member, Cyclops. While Cyclops did appear as a playable character in Marvel vs Capcom 2, I think it'd be awesome to see his brother join the fight in Marvel vs Capcom 4. Ability-wise, they could use his moveset from X-Men Next Dimension as a base. I think he'd have some awesome looking hyper combos, that's for sure. Design-wise, well, I'm pretty sure they'd go with his look from Avengers Alliance, which, don't get me wrong, it's a pretty cool design. I'd love to see his look from X Factor. I think he looks so rad with the jacket and longer hair, and at the very least, would love to see it as an alternate costume. All in all, I'd love to see Havoc make it in, as I'm sure he'd fit in perfectly. And my #1 Marvel character I like to see the most in the game is Nico Minoru, aka Sister Grimm, from the Marvel Runaways series. Okay, I'm very biased with this character as I have a love for dark gothic designs, but I digress. I really think she'd be an awesome addition to the Marvel vs Capcom series. I honestly never heard of the Runaways series until this year, but after reading a bit about her, I became an instant fan. Considering that her powers revolve around spellcasting, her move potential would be pretty interesting. And there you have it, folks. As far as Marvel characters go, Nico Minoru would be the character I like to see make it in the most. Now, let's head on into Capcom territory. Number 5 is a tie between Dimitri and Lord Raptor from the Darkstalkers series. I pretty much like all the characters in the Darkstalkers franchise, but I eventually narrowed it down to Dimitri and Lord Raptor. Dimitri was an obvious choice, as I love vampires, and he has to be one of the coolest video game vampires I've ever seen. He has some pretty neat moves that I think would transition well into the Marvel Vs Capcom universe. But then, there's the trademark zombie rockstar, Lord Raptor, who has to be one of the most unique monster designs in gaming. I think that Lord Raptor is badass, and has some wicked looking moves that would transition well into the Marvel vs Capcom. At the end of the day, I'm okay with either one of them making it in. Number 4. Juri. Oh yes, I'm a Juri fan. The girl has a killer style and her spin on Taekwondo is awesome. I can't say that I'm a big Street Fighter fan, as I always preferred 3D fighting games over 2D ones, but when I got around to playing Street Fighter X Tekken, I found myself playing as Juri a lot. She's so much fun to play, and I'd love to see her make it into Marvel vs Capcom 4. Number 3. Lady from the Devil May Cry series. Even though Lady was a pain in the ass when she made her debut in Devil May Cry 3, I always thought she was a pretty cool character. I mean, she shows that even though she's human, she can hold her own and kick some serious demon butt. I could go on and on about how much I like her, but that's for another video. Design wise, I'm pretty sure they'd go with her Devil May Cry 4 look, though I'd personally like to see them include her Devil May Cry 3 outfit as an alternate costume, as I like that one more to be honest. We already have Dante, Trish, and Virgil in the game, so why not include Lady as well. Number 2. Leo from Red Earth. Red Earth, also known as Warzord in Japan, was a 2D fighting game with RPG elements. I honestly never played the game, but I remember seeing this character featured on a top 10 list of forgotten Capcom characters, and I thought he looked pretty cool. Considering that he faded into obscurity, I think he'd be a great revival character to bring back into the gaming world. This could be a good way to give the Red Earth series a reboot. Anyway, I think Leo would make a pretty awesome addition to the game. And my number 1 Capcom character choice is Jean from God Hand. God Hand was a very obscure game released on the PS2 back in 2006. It was a 3D action beat-up style game and was named one of the hardest games on the PlayStation 2. Jean was the main character of the series, and while he very much was a cliche type character, you couldn't help but like his wittiness. He had some pretty awesome fighting moves that would translate well into a Marvel vs Capcom moveset. Like Leo, he is another character who faded into obscurity, as this game is very rare and is quite expensive to find these days. That said, I still believe that Jean would make a great Marvel vs Capcom character. So out of all the Capcom characters, he's the one I like to see the most. And there you have it folks. These were some of the characters that I'd love to see make it into Marvel vs Capcom 4. I hope you enjoyed, and I'd love to hear the characters you'd like to see make it into the game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.